All right, let's start again. So far we have solved two problems, and I believe you have understood the problems. If not, don't worry about it. We'll solve similar types of problem again. Okay, it will become more clear then. Okay, and these are the built-in functions that we have learned so far, and we have used this one, this find, and this TikTok. Okay, in the last lecture, in the last video, we'll use these things again. If it is not clear, don't worry about it. We'll use these same functions again and again, so it will actually become much more clear then. So let's start with our third problem here. Okay, now the third problem says that uh, previously we are actually working with an array. Array is a one-dimensional matrix. Okay, now we are going to work with this time a two-dimensional matrix. So it has some rows and some columns. Okay, so this is if you actually remember our lecture one, okay, the first lecture, uh, I have told you some of the things like uh, a vector can be a row vector, okay, or a column vector. Okay. A row vector or a column vector, they have size similarly 1 comma n. N is the number of elements or length, and for column vector that is n comma 1. Okay, one row, n columns in a row vector, and in a column vector there are n rows, one column. So these are one-dimensional matrix. But now we are going to work with matrix. So when it comes to matrix, okay, it comes to the size, and we normally denote them by m comma n, in m number of rows and n number of columns. Okay, so let's go back. So this is our matrix. So in the matrix, this first column contains the student ID, and the second column contains the mark of the students. Okay, okay, so that means that this student ID with 101 received 9 marks, 103 received 6 marks. Okay, these are arbitrary values, so don't worry about it. Now 100 and 105 actually received 7 marks, and so on. Okay, now we have 4 questions here. It has asked that what is the highest mark received by the group of students? What is the highest mark of this column? Because this is the mark, this first column is the student ID. It has asked the highest mark of this column, not the first column, the second column. Okay. Then the question was find the ID of the students who received the highest mark. What is the ID of the student? So next, in the last question, we actually found the index. Okay, the index of the students in the last question, if you remember, we found the index, this 4 and 6, sorry, 6 and 8, the index. But this time we have to find the index who received the highest mark. For example, this 9 and 9, 3 students actually received the highest mark, and we have to find the index. And this time we don't have to find the index, rather we have to find the ID. So from this row, this column, 101, then 113, and then 117. Okay, so let's start with our program now. Work with things. So first copy our vector. Okay, just copy it. Okay, so this is our data. Okay, this is the first row, this is the second row. Now let's create an M5, capital, first type 03. Okay, so our first task, okay, our first task was what is the maximum of this column, right? What is the maximum? What is the highest mark received of this column of these students? So here now I want to access this second column, not the first column. Okay, so I have to access only this second column and find the maximum of this column. So how to do that? I have to access something like that. So in order to access elements of a particular column, so what we actually do is A, okay, A, then there is something, then I have to remember when I'm actually using subscript. For example, if I write 1 comma 2, okay, it will give me first row, second column, this is 9. If I write 3 comma 2, it will give me third row and second column, 7. Now I want all the second columns, I want the second columns of, but I want all the rows. To do that, we do something like this sign, this colon sign. Okay, remember the signs. Okay, so this colon actually means I am actually wants all the rows of the second column of this matrix A. I repeat again. Okay, of this matrix A, I am accessing all the rows of second column. So now I get everything. Okay, so let's store it in another variable. For example, n, that is a of mark. Marks is equals to a of all the rows comma second column. Okay, I want to suppress this. Only to suppress I use the semicolon. Okay, remember. And now I want the maximum. Okay, so t1 is equals to maximum of marks. Now if I run it, go to the editor and run it. So this is 9. So 9 is the maximum, and that is the correct answer. Okay, so 9 is the highest mark received by the group of students. So I believe it is clear how to access a particular column. Okay, similarly, if I let me show you something. So if I want to access the first column of all the rows, I would write all the rows comma first column. It will give me only the first column elements. Okay, say I want to access a particular row. For example, say particular rows all columns. So say first row, I want to first row, but I want both the columns. So I'll use this all sign. Now I'm getting this x1. So this actually represents all. Okay, so I write it here. Yeah. Have learned something. This is important. So this, okay, here, this one in particular, this sign, okay, actually means all. Okay, all elements. Let's go again in our questions. What was the second question? So the second question says find the IDs of the student who received the highest mark. Now in the previously we have solved these things using for loop. Then I showed you how to write vectorized code, and vectorization actually helps you makes your code run much faster. So we want to use vectorization code for now on. So if you have not practiced these problems with vectorization, just give it a try. If you fail, don't worry about it. After practice a little bit, you will see this will actually become very clear. So find the IDs of the student who received the highest mark. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to go through all the elements of this, yeah, and see which students actually received 9 marks. Okay, so let me make it clear. 02. Okay, so let's say idx is equals to t1 contains my highest mark, and marks is this array. So what I'll do, marks is equals to t1. Okay, let me try it here for now. As you can see, it is giving me this logical array. So first one was 9, so this is giving me 1. So this is 0. 0 means false, 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 false. But now it is true, so I have 1, 1, 0. Okay, so when I just want to know what are the 1. So what are the index of this 1? Okay, so what I can do is idx. Okay, then I want to find the index. ID is equals to find idx. Previously I told you find will actually let's saw the documentation. If you don't understand something, just go through the documentation. It will actually make everything clear. Okay, so you can see it is written find indices as values of non-zero elements. Okay, so this is the one that I am actually currently using. It will find the indices and values of the non-zero elements. That means it will give me the indices. This is the non-zero element, these are the zeros, so it is giving me the indices of the non-zero elements. So when I write this code, id is equals to eto, okay, it will give me the indexes. Now what was the question? Find the id. So I need to access the first column, okay, and find those ids. Okay, so let me make it like this one. equals to A of all the rows of first column. So this is the student IDs. Okay, this ST actually containing these student IDs, and I want these IDs. Okay, so my T2, so my T2 is ST of ID, and let's see what actually happens. Okay, so it is giving me the IDs. So if you look at our original, 101, that is the first ID, then 9, 113, that is the second ID, and 9, that is 117, that is the third ID. So if you are actually feeling uncomfortable with this 4 precision, you can write something like format short J, then write A, then it will actually become much more clear. Okay, so now we can see the ID 11, 113, and 117, they actually received the highest mark. So that is the answer. Okay, so come back here. So this is the answer. Okay, one other thing is that as you can see in the T2, I already have this automatically have this array. Okay, I have every element in array, but as a column vector, not as a row vector, because I was accessing elements in the column way. So this is a column vector. So you can actually convert it into row vector simply by just writing T2 prime. It actually inverses, rotates the matrix. Okay, we'll see this thing. Okay, this operation later on. So don't worry about it for now. Okay. Let's go to the third question. What are the highest 3 marks received by the students? So highest 3 marks. If you remember from your previous one, here we have learned one thing that is called max k. Okay, I want the first 3 elements, maximum 3 elements. So I want max k, okay, of marks, comma 3. But again, I told, if you remember from our last lecture, so it will actually give the first 3 elements. But I want to do this for unique elements. So I have to convert it into unique first. So let's put to 03. First my marks unique. Now when I am writing these variables, okay, so it is actually best practice to write the name of the variable, something that actually relates to the data. So then after a few months, you will actually it will actually become easy to read the program when you actually read it after a couple of months. Okay, if you just write like A B C D E F G H, then it will actually make less sense, and it will actually look very complicated then. So I'm writing T1 because this is task 1, T2 to task 2, and similarly. So that actually makes a little bit more sense. So I want unique, okay, of marks. So I made a mistake. Unique of marks, it will give me the unique elements. Then I want task 3 is equals to max k of marks unique, comma 2, comma 3. So it should actually give me. So let me suppress this outputs. I don't need this outputs for now. Okay, so if I write it here, so T3 is 987. So these are the highest marks received by the highest 3 marks. 9, then 8. There is no 8.5. There is 7. So these are the highest 3 marks received by the students. Okay. So if I go here, 987 is the highest 3 marks. Okay. Now the next question is, what is the average mark received by the students? So I have to find. I have to find the average of mark. So of this column only. So this is actually very simple. If you remember from last year, mean of my marks. Okay, mean is the average function. So the average mark was 7.56. But here one thing, be careful. Here I'm using the original data. Okay, with repetition. If you actually use marks unique, okay, then it will become something different. But I don't want that. I don't want the unique data. I want the original data. So that is the correct answer. Okay, so I hope that this problem is clear. And there are some additional exercises I have given, like solve it for lowest mark and so on. Practice those things by yourself. I hope it will be clear. Okay.